All right, let's talk about Hollywood. It's a land of make-believe, right? Where beautiful people pretend to fall in love for our entertainment. But sometimes the most dramatic, most confusing, and most fascinating love stories happen when the cameras stop rolling. And for decades, the undisputed heavyweight champions of that genre have been Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. These two aren't just a couple. They're a cultural institution. They're a think piece waiting to happen. They're the final boss of celebrity relationships. You think your relationship is complicated? Try navigating love, life, and family while the entire world has a subscription to your personal drama. For years, Will and Jada were the gold standard. They were the couple everyone pointed to and said, "See, it can work." He was the box office king, the charming rapper from Philly who became the biggest movie star on the planet. She was the fierce, multi-talented actress, musician, and entrepreneur who was never just Will Smith's wife. But underneath that perfect, glossy surface, something far more interesting was brewing. Their journey has been less of a straight line and more of a roller coaster designed by a mad genius. They've given us more plot twists than an M. Night Shyamalan movie. In fact, M. Night is probably taking notes, thinking, an entanglement? Why didn't I think of that? Our story begins, as many great stories do, in the 90s. A time of baggy jeans, questionable hairstyles, and a little show called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Will Smith was on top of the world, a rap superstar turned sitcom icon, and a young, talented actress from Baltimore named Jada Pinkett auditioned for the role of his girlfriend, Lisa. Now, Hollywood being Hollywood, she didn't get the part. The reason? She was too short. The producers looked at these two future titans and thought, nah, the height difference is weird. It's one of those classic Tinseltown tales that proves casting directors are sometimes just guessing, like the rest of us. But you can't fight destiny, especially when it has a great smile and a hit TV show. Will was smitten. He said he knew there was something special about Jada from the moment he saw her. He was actually dating someone else at the time, but as he later confessed, he had a moment in a restaurant where he realized he was with the wrong person and was supposed to be with Jada. It's a very romantic story, unless you're the woman he was dating at the time. Then it's just a story about a guy who had an epiphany over dinner and broke up with you. They eventually connected, and the rest, as they say, is history. They married in 1997 in a secret ceremony because even then they knew their lives were becoming a public spectacle. They quickly became more than just actors. They became a brand. Will's movie career exploded. Independence Day, Men in Black, the man couldn't miss. Jada, meanwhile, carved out her own impressive career, starring in films like The Nutty Professor and the Matrix sequels, and leading her own metal band, Wicked Wisdom. Yes, a metal band. Jada Pinkett Smith was screaming into a microphone at Ozfest while Will was out fighting aliens. If that doesn't scream power couple, I don't know what does. They were defying expectations from the very beginning. They built a family, with their children Jaden and Willow becoming celebrities in their own right, creating a full-blown dynasty. The Smith family was a force of nature, talented, unconventional, and unapologetically themselves. They presented a united front of Black excellence and creative freedom that was inspiring to millions. For a long time, they were the perfect picture of Hollywood success, both personally and professionally. But behind the scenes, they were rewriting the rulebook. Every long-running show has a running gag, and for the Will and Jada show, it was the open marriage rumor. For years, it was just a whisper. A little bit of tabloid chatter you'd see in the grocery store checkout line. Are they? Aren't they? It was the Schrodinger's cat of celebrity relationships, both open and not open at the same time until someone looked inside the box. And boy, did they eventually open that box for us. The rumors didn't just appear out of thin air. They were fueled by the couple's own, refreshingly, and sometimes confusingly honest interviews about their relationship philosophy. Jada, in particular, was often the one pushing the conversation forward. In a 2013 interview, she famously said, "Will is his own man. I'm here as his partner, but he is his own man." She added that Will has all the freedom in the world, and as long as he can look himself in the mirror and be okay, she's good. Now, for most people, that sounds like a green light, a hall pass, a get-out-of-jail-free card for marriage. The world collectively gasped. Was she confirming it? Will later clarified things on his Facebook page, saying they had not decided to have an open relationship, but that they had decided to give each other trust and freedom. It was a masterclass in saying something without really saying anything. They didn't call it an open marriage. That was our word, the media's word. They used phrases like life partners and talked about being in a deeply committed, monogamous relationship that was also somehow not those things. In one interview, Will described their bond as a public-private partnership. What does that even mean? Are they a marriage or an infrastructure project? Are they building a life together or a new bridge? It was this kind of beautifully vague, corporate-sounding language that kept everyone guessing. They were basically saying, our relationship is none of your business, but here are some confusing clues to keep you occupied. This philosophy was both radical and risky. On one hand, it was admirable. They were challenging the rigid, often unrealistic expectations placed on marriage, especially in the pressure cooker of Hollywood. On the other hand, it created a fog of speculation that would eventually come back to haunt them. And then came the moment that changed everything. The moment that launched 1,000 memes and made the word entanglement the most popular term of 2020. Up-and-coming singer August Alsina, a friend of the family, gave an interview where he claimed he had been in a years-long romantic relationship with Jada and that he had received Will's blessing. The internet exploded. Was this the freedom they were talking about? Was this what life partnership looked like? The whispers were now a deafening roar. The open secret was suddenly, open, and very, very public. For a moment, there was silence from the Smith camp. The world held its breath. How would they handle this? A press release? A strongly worded denial from a publicist? Nope. They did something far more powerful and far more 21st century. Jada decided to bring herself to the Red Table. For those who don't know, Red Table Talk is Jada's own talk show, where she, her daughter Willow, and her mother Adrian have brutally honest conversations. It was the perfect stage for what was about to happen. It was like a defendant choosing to represent themselves in court. A bold move, a risky move. And so Will joined Jada at the table for a special episode. The tension was palpable. You could cut it with a knife. He looked like a man who had been called to the principal's office, and the principal was also his wife. In front of millions of viewers, Jada admitted to the relationship. But she didn't call it an affair. She didn't call it cheating. She looked her husband in the eye and delivered the line that would echo through eternity. I got into an entanglement with August. An entanglement, not a relationship, an entanglement. It was a word so perfectly vague, so hilariously diplomatic, it was instantly iconic. Will's reaction was just as memorable. He sat there looking heartbroken and exhausted, pushing her to be more specific. An entanglement? A relationship? He corrected, forcing the clarity she was trying to avoid. The conversation was raw, painful, and deeply uncomfortable to watch. It was also riveting. They explained that they had been separated at the time, that their marriage was effectively over, and Jada's entanglement happened during that period of brokenness. They then revealed they had fought their way back to each other, to a place of unconditional love. It was a bombshell confession wrapped in a story of redemption. But the world mostly just remembered the one word. In the digital age, a scandal isn't just a scandal, it's content. And the entanglement saga was premium grade A, uncut content for the internet. Before the Red Table Talk episode was even over, the memes had started. The word entanglement became an immediate global inside joke. People started describing everything as an entanglement. I'm not late for work. I got into an entanglement with my snooze button. I didn't eat the last piece of cake. My mouth got into an entanglement with it. The word was so deliciously evasive that it perfectly captured the absurdity of the situation. It was a public relations masterpiece and a disaster all at once. But the real star of the meme-a-thon was Will Smith's face. During the Red Table confession, the camera caught a shot of Will looking utterly defeated. His eyes were wide. His expression was a cocktail of pain, sadness, and the look of a man who just realized this conversation was being recorded. That image of sad Will Smith became an instant all-purpose reaction meme for any and every moment of human suffering. Got a flat tire? Sad Will Smith. Spilled your coffee? Sad Will Smith. Stubbed your toe? Sad Will Smith. He became the patron saint of looking like you're holding it together when you are, in fact, very much not holding it together. The internet's reaction was a fascinating mix of sympathy and mockery. On one hand, people felt for Will. He was the lovable Fresh Prince, the hero who saved the world in movies. Seeing him look so vulnerable was honestly jarring. On the other hand, the sheer Hollywoodness of it all was too funny to ignore. The carefully chosen words, the dramatic setting of their own talk show, the idea of having your marital problems dissected by millions. It was a spectacle. The memes weren't just jokes. They were a form of public commentary. This whole episode showed how celebrity culture has changed. It's no longer a one-way street where stars present a perfect image and we just consume it. It's interactive. We don't just watch the drama, we participate in it. We remix it, we meme it, we turn it into a global conversation. Will and Jada, by choosing such a public forum to air their issues, essentially invited us all to the red table. And the internet pulled up a chair, ordered some popcorn, and started taking notes. They wanted to control the narrative, but in doing so, they handed the internet the pen. Just when you thought the Smith saga couldn't get any more dramatic, along came the 2022 Oscars. It was supposed to be Will's big night. He was the front-runner for Best Actor for his role in King Richard. He was about to reach the pinnacle of his profession, to get the one award that had eluded him. The narrative was set for a triumphant comeback. And then, Chris Rock made a joke. A G.I. Jane joke aimed at Jada's shaved head, a result of her struggle with alopecia. The camera cut to Jada, who rolled her eyes in annoyance. Will, initially, was seen laughing. But then, something shifted. What happened next is seared into our collective memory. Will Smith, the charming movie star, walked onto the stage, approached Chris Rock, and slapped him across the face in front of a live global audience of millions. He then returned to his seat and shouted, "Keep my wife's name out of your fing mouth." Twice. The room fell silent. The world fell silent. Was this real? Was it a bit? For a few confusing seconds, nobody knew what to think. It was a moment of pure, unscripted chaos that shattered the carefully curated illusion of Hollywood glamour. It was more shocking than any entanglement. The slap completely overshadowed everything else that night, including Will's own Oscar win just moments later. His tearful acceptance speech was a bizarre and rambling attempt at an apology, where he talked about love making you do crazy things and positioned himself as a fierce defender of his family, just like his character, Richard Williams. He was trying to frame an act of public violence as an act of noble protection. It was a messy, confusing, and deeply human moment. The man who had spent 3 decades building an image of the perfect, likable leading man had just dismantled it in 30 seconds. The fallout was immense and immediate. The slap was not just a slap, it was a cultural Rorschach test. To some, Will was a hero, a husband defending his wife's honor against an insensitive joke. They saw it as a powerful moment of a black man standing up for his black wife. To others, he was a bully who had resorted to violence over a bad joke, setting a terrible example. Debates raged online and on TV. Was the joke out of line? Yes. Was the slap justified? Almost everyone agreed. No. After the slap, the Smith PR machine went into overdrive. This wasn't like the entanglement, which they could frame as a quirky, progressive take on marriage. This was a public act of violence. The stakes were infinitely higher. The first step was the classic celebrity mea culpa, a carefully worded Instagram apology. Will apologized to Chris Rock, to the Academy, to the viewers, and to his family. He called his own behavior unacceptable and inexcusable. It was the necessary first move, a public act of contrition designed to stop the bleeding. But the damage was already done. The consequences were swift. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, after a period of deliberation that felt like an eternity, banned Will from attending the Oscars for 10 years. It was a significant punishment, a clear statement that his actions would not be tolerated. Movie projects were reportedly paused or shelved. The man who was once the most bankable star in Hollywood had suddenly become radioactive. His brand, built on being the fun, safe, family-friendly hero, was now associated with unpredictability, and violence. The question on everyone's mind was, can he come back from this? And then, Jada offered her own perspective. On Red Table Talk, of course. Where else? In an episode dedicated to alopecia, she addressed the slap. She expressed her hope that the two intelligent, capable men, Will and Chris, would have an opportunity to heal, talk this out, and reconcile. It was a very diplomatic, almost detached way of addressing the incident, positioning herself as a peacemaker caught in the middle. Some praised her for her grace, while others felt she was deflecting responsibility for her part in the night's events. It once again showed the family's instinct to control their own narrative, even in the face of a full-blown crisis. In the years since, we've seen a slow, calculated comeback tour. Will has largely stayed out of the spotlight, emerging for a tearful interview here, a self-deprecating social media post there. He went on a spiritual journey to India. He's been working on himself. It's the standard Hollywood redemption arc. Meanwhile, Jada released a tell-all memoir that contained yet another bombshell. She and Will had been secretly separated since 2016. Yes, separated during the entanglement, separated during the slap. They were living separate lives, but presenting a united front. It was the ultimate plot twist, recontextualizing everything we thought we knew. The comeback, it seems, is just another chapter in this never-ending story. So why? Why are we so obsessed with this one couple? It's not just because they're famous. There are plenty of famous couples. No, the Smiths are different. They represent the collision of our most deeply held beliefs about love, race, family, and success. For years, they were a symbol of Black excellence and aspirational love. They were the perfect family, and we invested in that perfection. So when the cracks started to show, we couldn't look away. It was like finding out Superman and Lois Lane were in marriage counseling. It shatters the myth. Their story taps into our deepest anxieties and curiosities about relationships. We are all trying to figure out how to make love work. Is monogamy the only way? What is forgiveness? What is loyalty? The Smiths are asking these same questions, but they're doing it on a global stage. They've turned their marriage into a public laboratory, and we are all watching the experiment unfold. When they talk about unconditional love after an entanglement, we lean in, because we want to know if that's even possible. We judge them, yes, but we also use their story to measure our own relationships and beliefs. Furthermore, their saga is a perfect reflection of our current media landscape. Every revelation is perfectly packaged for viral consumption. A one-word bombshell like entanglement, an unforgettable visual like the sad Will Smith meme, a shocking, televised act like the slap. They create moments that are tailor-made for social media. Their drama is our entertainment. We are no longer passive consumers of celebrity news. We are active participants. We are commentators, meme makers, and jurors in the court of public opinion. Their lives have become a shared cultural text that we all get to analyze and debate. And perhaps on a deeper level, we care because their story feels surprisingly relatable, despite the Hollywood gloss. Who hasn't felt the pressure to present a perfect life on social media? Who hasn't struggled with the difference between their public self and their private reality? Who hasn't navigated the messy, complicated, and sometimes painful realities of a long-term relationship? The Smiths are just doing it with bigger houses and more cameras. Their very public struggle to define their own happiness makes us feel a little less alone in our own private ones. Their messiness is a strange, distorted reflection of our own. So, where does this leave us? The story of Will and Jada Pinkett Smith is far from over. If we've learned anything, it's that there's always another Red Table Talk, another memoir, another shocking revelation just around the corner. They are the masters of the cliffhanger. Their marriage, or life partnership, or public-private partnership, or whatever they choose to call it this week, is a living, breathing entity that continues to evolve under the harsh glare of the public eye. They have redefined what a celebrity marriage can look like, for better or for worse. They've shown us the good, the bad, and the entangled. Their journey is a testament to the impossible bargain of modern fame. To be successful, you have to be seen. But to be happy, you need privacy. The Smiths have tried to have it both ways, curating their own vulnerability and turning their personal lives into part of their brand. The result is a fascinating and often chaotic dance between authenticity and performance. Are they being radically honest? Or are they just really good at crisis management? Are they deconstructing marriage, or are they just a messy couple with a great publicist? The answer is probably a little bit of everything. In the end, maybe their biggest legacy will be the conversation they started. They forced us to talk about uncomfortable things, the expectations of marriage, the nature of forgiveness, the line between public and private life, and the strange ways we project our own hopes and fears onto celebrities. They held a mirror up to our culture, and we saw a reflection that was sometimes funny, sometimes ugly, and always complicated. They've given us a story so rich with drama and meaning that we'll be dissecting it for years to come. But now, the microphone is yours. What do you think? Are Will and Jada relationship goals or a cautionary tale? Is their honesty brave or just a clever marketing strategy? And why, after all the drama, do we still find ourselves tuning in for the next episode? Share your thoughts, drop a comment, get into your own entanglement with the debate. Because in the grand theater of Hollywood, the story is only half the fun. The other half is the conversation that happens after the credits roll. And with the Smiths, the credits never seem to roll.